Good morning and welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Wednesday, the 12th day of Adar Aleph, the first Adar. Let's begin with tzedakah. Gedola tzedakah shemakareves es hageula. Charity brings Mashiach closer. So we continue chapter 29, where the Alter Rebbe guides us how to break spiritual numbness. And in order to do that, the Alter Rebbe gives us tools. What to meditate, how to humble ourselves, how to realize how low we are and how far we are from Hashem. And this is a method that helps us to break our ego, our selfishness, but we have to keep one thing in mind. In general, this is not the normal way, what we should do, how we should serve Hashem. We always have to be serving Hashem with happiness, with joy. And there is the straight path of how to serve Hashem. We learned in the earlier chapters in the Tanya. To think about our nefesh elokis, about the true self. The true self is the godly soul, which is in each and every one of us. And through meditation, through studying, through understanding the greatness of Hashem, supposed to help us and guide us and serve Hashem with happiness and joy. But in these chapters, however, the Alter Rebbe addresses a particular situation when sometimes no matter what you do, you just feel numb. You don't feel emotionally connected. So for this, the Alter Rebbe says you need to have those tools in your toolbox to understand, and from time to time, and at an appropriate time, there is those meditations that you need to realize and need to think about. And this is sometimes we need to do it to really come down hard on the animal soul, which basically possesses us. And again, so to keep in mind, we have to understand that there is the very essence of who we really are, which is the godly soul. Godliness. We have a neshama, that is a true self. However, in reality, what do we identify with? When I say I, when I feel I, what do I feel? What do I see? So basically the animal soul, the natural soul, takes over in life. And therefore, Alter Rebbe says we have to realize, have to think about, in order to, when you feel it, when a person gets to this situation, when he feels numb spiritually, he needs to think about this reality, and that should lead the person to break down and to lower that spirit of the evil, the selfish neshama, the selfish soul, to bring it down to its real place. So this is what the Alter Rebbe says here. So he talks about the Beinoni. You have to realize how far, how low, and in essence, he says we are even lower than the lowest creature. The lowest creature, who is a worm that is created from the shalish klipes atmeyes, the three evil impurities. It is there by creation. God placed it there. It doesn't have a choice to go against Hashem. The only creature that is able to go against Hashem, against God, is the human being, the animal soul. And we have that ability to go against Hashem in order to be able to break ourselves and make the right choices. So of course it's supposed to lead us in good places. But the reality is that right now, the self, that self that you identify with, is an entity that can go against Hashem, and that is lower than the lowest creature. So this is what the Alter Rebbe says in today's lesson. Let's see inside. Says the Alter Rebbe, V'im kein, hu rochok me Hashem betachlis harichok. And if so, that he is actually the animal soul. Who is the real me? Who is the he? Is the animal soul. Unlike a tzaddik. A tzaddik, who is the real self of the tzaddik, is the godly soul. Animal soul is just like, as we said yesterday, it's like a foreign thing to the tzaddik. The body, he needs to feed the body, he has a body. But the real self of the tzaddik is the godly soul. But anyone who is not a tzaddik, who is he? Who does he identify with? It is the animal soul. So he is removed from God with the utmost remoteness. Sharei koyach hamisava shebenafshei ba'amis yochel gam kein leisabes ledvorim ha'asurim shem neged retzonei yisborach. For the lusting drive in his animal soul is capable of lusting also after forbidden things, which are contrary to God's will. So the very fact that you're able to lust after forbidden things, that itself shows how low you are. And although we're talking about a Beinani, again, what is a Beinani? Beinani is a person who is in full control. He's not doing anything bad. He goes everything by the book. And he doesn't actually desire bad things. In other words, he's not desiring to do bad things. Like if you think about a person who is basically an observant Jew, he's never going to contemplate going to eat on Yom Kippur. He's not going to desire to go eat on Yom Kippur. It's absolutely out of the question. So he says, "Af she'einu mis'avel ha'soisom bepoel mamash chas v'sholom, rak she'einu me'usim etzle be'emes kebetzadikim k'mo shenizbar la'il perek yud." So while he does not desire to do them, these forbidden things, in actual practice, God forbid, yet they are not truly repulsive to him, as they are to tzaddikim, as explained above in chapter 12. So the tzaddik, by him, the tzaddik is repulsed, does not have any temptation, any desire to do anything which is not godly. And is absolutely repulsed by it. But one who is not a tzaddik, is not in that level, then you have to realize that the fact that it's not repulsed to do things which is not godly, that puts you in a place which is less, it is lower than the most lowest creature on earth. Because the lowest creature on earth, no matter how low it is, and no matter how low its source is, yet it is there by creation, by Hashem's design. Hashem placed it there, and it does not have any desire to go against Hashem's will. That's what Alter Rebbe says, "Ubezeu gerua umeshukatz umetuyev yoser mibalei chaim atmeim ushkotzim uremosim kanis kalehel." So in this, he's inferior and more loathsome and abominable than unclean animals and insects and reptile, as mentioned above. Because even they do not transgress against God's will. And since he does so, in his mind at least, he's worse than they. And it is written, it says in the Psalms, "But I am a worm, but not a man." So as a human being who chooses to lower himself to the level of a worm, I am worse than a worm. For it is a worm by creation, rather than by choice. So those are the things that Alter Rebbe tells us to contemplate in order to break our ego, in order to break the evil, the sitra achra, which possesses us. So by breaking ourselves, which the self that we identify with, realizing that this me is able to desire things which is not godly. So how far it is from Hashem. And Alter Rebbe goes on further to help us to focus on how low we are, and don't fool yourself to think that, yes, you are low, but yes, there are some times that I connect and I am with Hashem. For example, Alter Rebbe mentioned earlier in the Tanya that during prayer, a Beinani can reach the levels of true love with Hashem and the inspiration. So Alter Rebbe says again, don't lose focus from the thinking of what the true place of the animal soul is. Even though you're able sometimes during davening, during prayer, to get this inspiration and feeling love to Hashem, but is this really a true love to Hashem? Is it the ultimate truth, that love that you feel? You see, when a person is in love with someone, it's not something that stops after 5 minutes. He doesn't have to remind himself every 5 minutes that he's in love. Or when you're scared of something, if there is a snake next to you and you're afraid of the snake that's standing next to you, you don't have to remind yourself every 5 minutes, oh, I should be afraid there's a snake. You're afraid. You're taken over with fear, or you're taken over with love. But when you daven to Hashem and you get inspired during the prayer, is this really true inspiration? Is this really true love that you have to Hashem? What happens 5 minutes after davening? It's all gone. So that, says the Alter Rebbe, shows that even the inspiration that your soul has is also not true. Or why? Because it doesn't last. So again, this is the tools the Alter Rebbe gives us to meditate, and the fact that we are very far away, we still have a long way to go, and that self, when it's broken down, allows the true light of the godly soul to come in. Continues the Alter Rebbe. וגם כשמתגברת בו נפש אלוקית לעורר אהבה להשם בשעת התפילה, אינו באמס לאמיתו לגמרי. Even when his divine soul gathers strength within him to arouse his love to God during prayer, this predominance of the divine soul is not altogether genuine. Why not? Since it is transient and vanishes after prayer, as mentioned earlier in chapter 13. So this is the end of today's shir. And again, yes, it is a very harsh reality that Alter Rebbe tells us to focus on. But this is not something that should be the focus of our life, as I mentioned earlier. The focus should be an Ivdus Hashem b'simcha, serving Hashem constantly with happiness, with joy, knowing that we have our neshama in us, realizing the true self that we really are, even though we do not identify with it on a regular basis. But the fact that we know that this is true really inside us helps us to serve Hashem with happiness and joy. And again, those are tools that from time to time, if a person feels such numbness and such no inspiration whatsoever, so again, these are the tools that Alter Rebbe gives us to break down, to humble oneself through these meditations, and through them to move on to the next step, which is to reawaken our godly neshama in us. This is the end of today's shir. We'll see you tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem. Have a wonderful day.